3D fighting games work differently from 2D fighting games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Killer Instinct.
Ultra Combo!
In a 3D fighting game, you're a lot more versatile in your movement, and you're not constricted to moving only left and right. Tekken is one of the most popular 3D fighting games in the world, next to Soul Calibur and Dead or Alive. The Tekken games center around the Mishima family, with characters like Heihachi, Jin, and Kazuya. Long story short, Dad throws young son off a cliff to test if he's strong, son survives and returns seeking revenge, son wins, Dad returns, kills son, son has a son of his own, son is resurrected by a corporation, son kills Dad again, but Dad returns too, and someone turns into a devil. The past 7 games have just been a back and forth between these characters, with the majority of the game's roster having either worked for or been a victim of the Mishima family's actions. So when it came time to make a movie about a supernatural Shakespearean martial arts family feud, how the hell did they mess it up so bad and why? The revenge film has been shown in many movies like John Wick, The Crow, Django, and multiple other films. However, a live-action Tekken could have taken notes from a law-abiding citizen, especially with how Gerard Butler's character is portrayed, and the plotline of Tekken, especially with its aspect of revenge, seemed perfect for a movie to explore, especially if they wanted to adapt the timeline of Tekken 3 as their very first movie. Sadly, that's not what we got. What we got was a hideous product that even Katsuhiro Harada, the creator of the Tekken games, thought was terrible. Harada was contractually obligated to have his franchise's name attached to the movie, and wasn't even able to have creative inputs in order to make the movie stay true to the game. I don't know, man. The moment the creator of the very thing you're trying to adapt doesn't even like it, you're definitely doing something really, really wrong. Enough talk. Let's review Tekken. We begin with the narration from... Hold on, let me plug in my new TV.
Ow! Shit!
There we go. Feels more like home. We begin with the narration from our protagonist Jin Kazama as he introduces us to the dystopian world where corporations rule, one of them being Tekken. And for hardcore game fans, G-Corp makes an appearance too. Apparently a war broke out and corporations took over the nations. Tekken, aka the Mishima Zaibatsu, or Mishima Empire, took over the US, turning it into a state of allegorical classism. And once every year a tournament is hosted by Tekken, which is where Jin's story begins. But before the fight can begin, we rewind to 5 days before it, where Jin is getting chased by some people with guns and doing some parkour.
Parkour!
Turns out he's just a tech smuggler trying to make money and stole some Tekken tech, aka the most expensive tech. I really can't imagine Jin Kazama as a thief. This is a little odd. I'll be honest, I don't like this film already and probably won't like it even more as I review it, but I gave Future Cops aka Street Fighter a chance because it was only loosely based on the video game and had to take some creative liberties without getting sued by Capcom. The Tekken movie does not get that leisure at all because this was a movie that sought out to be an actual adaptation of the video game itself in both visuals, characters, and story. You'll see that it attempts to be faithful throughout the movie, but fails miserably in the eyes of many fans because of the quote, creative liberties it took. After we're introduced to Jin, we then get Heihachi Mishima's first appearance, played by none other than the 1995 Shang Tsung himself, Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa. He is the only good thing about this movie. His screen presence just oozes power and dominance every time he's shown. Sure, he's not as ruthless as Heihachi in the video games, but you can believe that he could be a good Heihachi given how he portrayed Shang Tsung, who before was just another fighting game character that did not have much character, aside from being a sorcerer type fighter before being adapted to live action. I mean, just listen to how he says Tekken with so much conviction and seriousness.
That is Tekken.
So Jin walks into a bar to pay off his tab, buys some coffee and an orange off of Walmart Ludicrous, and comes across 2 dudes who pester him into entering Tekken in order to save and represent the Anvil slums because they used to see him street fight. But Jin's the reluctant hero protagonist type, so he refuses. We get our first glimpse of the Tekken tournament where Heihachi and Kazuya are discussing. Huh? These two dudes are working for one another? What the fuck? Who wrote this? He helped with writing Halloween 4. Yeesh. He's the writer for the Wrong Turn saga. He's on to Star Trek Discovery too? Ew. He helped to write the Spawn animated series. That's cool. I like the series. Wait. Here's a Wait. There's Marine sequels after John Cena? Alright. Wait. There's going to be a Wrong Turn remake. I don't know how to judge. Sympathizing as a writer, I can give him props for being able to churn out a whole Wrong Turn saga, but I also hate his guts for writing this damn movie. Anyways, Heihachi and Kazuya are discussing the tournament, but Kazuya brings up about how he should have been the one to announce the tournament, and asked to be given control of the Empire by playing the "Let me rule next because I'm your son" card. But Heihachi denies Kazuya's promotion because he's not ready, and Kazuya is visibly pissed. Before I go off on any more tangents, let me get something straight. Heihachi and Kazuya are supposed to be like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, except both are out to kill one another. Heihachi is supposed to have traumatized Kazuya by throwing him off a cliff as a kid and insulting his mother as weak because of how she died. And with Kazuya surviving the fall, he would be seeking revenge while constantly aiming to be strong and not weak, given the mental scarring he got as a kid. So it makes zero sense why you would have the biggest rivals in the Tekken franchise working together other than to be, quote, different or subverting our expectations. That's just fucking stupid and pisses all over the franchise's establishments. Well, on the bright side, Ian Anthony Dale made a badass Scorpion in the Mortal Kombat Legacy web series. He probably could have done justice to Kazuya too if the movie had a writer who was actually a fucking fan or had Harada as a creative consultant, rather than googling the damn character image and saying, yeah, this looks accurate. Let's just continue. I'll get to a tad bit more of the lore deviation at the end of the review. Jin returns home to surprise his mom with expensive groceries, and when she tells him about how his smuggling job is going to get him killed, he jokingly brings up about how he could enter the Tekken tournament and make some real money. But his mom is not amused, and they break out into an argument which results in Jin leaving to eat a peach.
You know, I can, eat a peach for hours.
A group of jacks invade the warehouse of the tech dealer Jin works for, and, wait, why the fuck do the jacks look like they're practicing kendo with guns? What was so bad about 7-foot muscle men with a mohawk? Turns out the tech Jin stole belonged to Tekken and was traced and tracked down by Kazuya. This incident connects Jin back to the dealer, and their drones go looking for him. And since Tekken City has a curfew law, a drone catches Jin in 4K during sex, and he has to leave. At the same time that happens, the jacks crash into Jin's home to interrogate his mother about his whereabouts, but Jin's mom can kick ass. Kazuya then orders the bombing of the neighborhood slums, and just as Jin runs his ass home, he sees his mom for the last time before a missile destroys his house. After the explosion, Jin rummages through his burning house for family photos, and discovers that his mom, Jun Kazama, once participated in Tekken, which explains why she did not want him to join and waste his life away with it. Angry and out for revenge, Jin decides to enter the Iron Fist tournament to kill Heihachi, believing him to be the murderer of his mother. And the one way into Iron Fist is to defeat martial law. And as a law main ever since Tekken 3, it pains me to show you this.
I'm going to Iron Fist, and you're in my way. You need to learn some respect.
Bruce Lee is rolling in his goddamn grave right now. What a fucking disgrace. Jin and Law fight, and as much as I hate this god-awful movie, I can't undermine the fight choreography done by the actors. As someone who improv'd and tried fight choreo in my parody-esque short films, I have way more respect for the work that goes behind it than I ever did before. Oh wow, they did a replay just like in the video games. Just as the entirety of Tekken City watches Jin get pummeled by martial imposter, old lessons from his mother teach him to overcome the fight, and he wins, becoming the people's choice for Iron Fist. In a bedroom somewhere, Nina and Anna, who are also supposed to be rivals, are together and banging Kazuya because they aren't characters, they're just archetypes and hot fighter figures from the game. The fans will never notice. Boobs, am I right? After that session, Kazuya unwinds with some alcohol, but Heihachi is tired of his spoiled brat and reminds him what it means to own Tekken and honor the Mishima name. which causes more tension between the two and gives Kazuya more reason to hate his father. We then get a glimpse at the Tekken movie roster with characters such as Raven, Eddie, Dragunov, Anna, Nina, Christy, Miguel, Yoshimitsu, Brian, and Jin. And props to the costume department, they look decent and video game accurate. Too bad the characters are soulless.
What's this?
Are you kidding me? They have signature.
No wearing those.
You will wear it and like it, Jin! And not to add more salt to the lore-breaking wounds, but the dude that's representing Jin is apparently Steve Fox. Yeah, that's Steve Fox. Jin takes a liking to Christy. I don't blame you, Jin. Christy's a beaut. But he acts awkwardly around her like a damn fool. Ugh, the real Jin would not give a damn about how fine Christy is. She would only be an obstacle for him to get to Heihachi. He would be driven to knock her ass out without a second thought. The fighters are announced one by one and brought up to the stage to rile up the crowd. But Kazuya is feeling uncomfortable about our newbie, Jin. Tekken fans, you already know what's happening here. The random select begins, and our first fight is Raven versus Eddie. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Aside from the movie being complete ass, I can appreciate the fight choreo. Lateef Crowder, who plays Eddie here, is the same dude who was using capoeira against Tony Jaa in The Protector. As I was editing, I almost forgot that Jonathan Fu, who plays Jin in this movie, also shows up in The Protector. It's a shame though. He loses here to Raven because of plot convenience. Next fight is Miguel versus Jin. Steve gives Jin some pointers on how Miguel fights, but Jin just seems to ignore it. Perhaps Steve should warn Jin about not letting him finish his taunt? I'd be fine. Jin seems to be holding his own until he gets flipped, which doesn't surprise Kazuya since he already doesn't think too highly of the people's choice. Jin rises back up and gets into his kata stance, which means you're about to get fucked up and surprise the shit out of all the people doubting you. The music amps up and Jin begins fighting back for a good minute, only to get knocked down again. One more training lesson flashback for a good motivational measure, and Jin fights again before disabling Miguel and beating him to a bloody pulp as more flashbacks happen.
I'm the best around. Nothing but a hammer. I'm warning you, sir. The best around.
After Jin wins, Kazuya goes to congratulate him, mentions that there's something familiar about his fighting style, foreshadow, and tells him to keep fighting like a pro and that one day he'll become an important asset to Tekken, in which Jin replies that he'll never be a part of Tekken. Still enraged about his encounter with Kazuya, Jin takes out his anger on Mokujin as Christy watches. She arrives at his door after his training session, and the two go out to the club to chat about her backstory before having a dance break. Back in Kazuya's quarters, he goes through Jin's fighter profile and learns about who his mother is. Jin and Christy return from their night of clubbing, make out, and go back to their rooms until ninjas attack! And you can't even tell what the hell's happening in the fight scene. Thankfully, Christy overhears the commotion and saves them. Steve discusses the ninja situation with Jin, before revealing that he once knew his mother after Jin shows Steve his mother's Tekken card. Christy suggests for Jin to disappear and go underground, since it's become clear that someone's trying to assassinate him. But Jin refuses to leave since he came to Tekken to kill Heihachi Mishima. This scene is never elaborated on. Steve and Christy just accept that he's going to keep fighting, and never question it. And to no one's surprise, the ninjas were Nina and Anna Williams, who were hired by Kazuya himself. The tournament resumes, and it's Christy versus Nina. And before she goes to fight, Jin brings up to Christy that Nina was one of the assassins he saw in his room. Okay, Jin, there is no fucking way you'd be able to tell who's who in a strobe light blinking room, especially when you're getting your ass kicked. Christy and Nina fight, and we get some back and forth dialogue from the two as the fight happens.
I like your boyfriend. He's cute. Sorry, I don't share.
These lines are on the level of Mortal Kombat Annihilation dialogue. But at least Annihilation's lines were hilariously bad.
Mother, you're alive. Too bad you will die.
These are just cringe-inducing.
I like your boyfriend. Sorry, I don't share.
Boo! Boo! Meanwhile, Kazuya is trying to bargain a useless deal that goes nowhere with Brian, who's apparently breaking Iron Fist tournament rules because of his cybernetic enhancements and... Wait, that actor looks familiar. He was Ken? Man, never mind that. We got 3 legendary live-action fighting game actors in this movie. Shang Tsung, Scorpion, and Ken Masters. Wait, hold on. I'm forgetting that Jonathan Fu, who plays Jin, also played Ryu in the Street Fighter Legacy short film, too. So make that 4. Getting ready for the next battle between Jin and Yoshimitsu, Steve gives Jin his iconic fight gauntlets, which apparently once belonged to Steve. Yoshimitsu's design for the movie resembles his look from Tekken 3, but I wish they gave him his glowing eyes and let him do all that crazy shit you see Yoshimitsu do in the games. But this movie gave Tekken the Dark Knight realism treatment, so we're never going to see any of that happen. Before the fight can even begin, Heihachi wants to randomize the character selection again and save the current matchup for the semifinals. Kazuya finally says enough, stages a coup against his father, and takes over the Mishima Empire. Jin and Yoshimitsu fight each other with blades, and Yoshimitsu shatters Jin's blade. Heihachi angrily watches as Kazuya shows how their ratings are skyrocketing, and boasts with a terrible line.
You see, the only thing audiences crave more than blood is death. You see, Father, I have learned.
No, Kazuya. They just want to see a fight with stakes. You're not gonna pay money to watch 2 no-named amateurs pummel the hell out of each other in a big fight. You want to see 2 big shots like Tyson and Pacquiao give it their all in the ring. Anyways, Jin's losing badly, and Yoshimitsu's showing no mercy. And to no one's surprise, Kazuya's trying to kill Jin because that's his son! Dun dun dun! And Jin's next in line for the Mishima Empire if Kazuya fucks up here. Heihachi immediately karate chops the jacks, with no visible electricity effects, and presses the emergency button. The alarm distracts Yoshimitsu long enough for Jin to get back up and palm strike Yoshimitsu to death. Now that's something the real Jin would do! Hell yeah!
KO.
Oh shit, they're about to fight! Oh come on! Steve and Christy try to help Jin escape, but are stopped by the Jacks and put into the Tekken gulag. Kazuya pays his son a visit, and tells them that they won't be fighting until defeat anymore, but to the death. Jesus, Kazuya, this is Tekken, not Mortal Kombat. And as the guards take Raven out to his next fight, he knocks them out and helps break Jin and the gang out. As they're making their escape, they come across Heihachi. Jin attempts to confront Heihachi, but the gang is forced to free him in order to escape the Tekken gulag. Raven gets shot and is left behind, but the gang manages to escape into the Anvil slums. Now hiding in a safe house, Jin and Heihachi finally get to talk. Heihachi tells Jin about his mother being a great fighter and how he believes Tekken has restored order to the world and taken away the chaos. But Jin disagrees because of how the slums are treated and how he was responsible for the death of his mother. This is when Heihachi reveals to Jin that he had saved his mother from dying after she was beaten and violated by Kazuya, thus indirectly saving Jin too. And since Heihachi learned that Jin is his grandson, he points out to him that there now exist 2 heirs to the Tekken throne. Jax then storm the safe house. They all try to fight back, but Steve gets gunned down and dies. And Jin and Christy are taken back to Tekken City, except Heihachi. Heihachi and Kazuya have one last conversation about who is fit to sit the Tekken throne, and Kazuya sends Heihachi off with a jack to be executed, and that's when the best line in the movie is uttered.
I am Mishima Heihachi. I am Tekken.
I forget, there's also another iconic line.
Heihachi Mishima is dead.
The next day, the Tekken tournament resumes, and the first match of the semifinals is Dragunov versus Brian. And if you thought you were going to win against a guy who played the very first live-action fighting game character ever put on the screen, you thought wrong. Kazuya pays his son a visit once more, and keeps pointing a gun to his head in every encounter. Jesus, Kazuya, at least whoop his ass a little instead of resorting to a gun.
Get off of me!
Imagine what I'll do to her if you don't fight.
Jin barely knows her, dude. They literally just met yesterday. As Jin sits in the Tekken gulag and contemplates his decisions, Raven gives Jin a little pep talk about how he had a fire in him when fighting Miguel, and that anger doesn't fuel the fire, but incinerates it. He also reminds Jin that he is no longer fighting for himself, but everyone else in the world. Because if he loses, then Tekken City will have a shitty ruler like Kazuya. But if Jin wins, well, that remains to be determined. Jin finally faces off with Brian, and we are brought back to the opening scene of the movie. And Brian throws such a strong punch, he sends Jin flying. It's a shame he couldn't follow up with a juggle combo. Jin tries to hit back as hard as he can, but it does not faze Brian at all. He just takes each and every hit Jin throws at him and punishes him afterwards. And for the 100th fucking time, we get a flashback of Jin's training with his mother that teaches him to overcome his fights. For fuck's sake, man, this movie has more flashbacks in the movie than a CW Flash episode. Flashback teaches Jin to overcome his weakness, the citizens of Anvil slums begin cheering his name, and for some reason Brian stops tanking Jin's punches and kicks and is defeated by a high elbow drop. Jin's victory pisses Kazuya off for the last time, and he decides to face Jin himself, armed with axes. Kazuya wounds Jin and teases him about being born with the Mishima curse. Well, no one turned into a devil in this movie, Kazuya. There is no Mishima curse, nor is there a devil gene. Jin gets thrown to the ground by Kazuya, and just when he's about to kill Jin, Christie overpowers and shoots the Jax, distracting Kazuya long enough for Jin to recover and slice Kazuya in the abdomen. And just when it looks like Jin's about to kill Kazuya,
It's your curse, not mine.
Christie announces him as the new champion of Iron Fist, and the Jax all bend to his will, since he's become the new ruler of the Mishima Empire. The movie narrator says tyranny was defeated, and the Mishima name was replaced with Kazuma that represented hope and freedom to all, and attempts to sequel bait the movie by saying, quote,
But freedom comes and goes, and the world had no idea or warning that the true legacy of Tekken was only just beginning.
After all that, we get an after-credits scene where we find out Heihachi did not get executed, but lived by ordering the Jack to stand down. I knew Tagawa-san was not going to die that easily! Hell yeah! And that was the live-action adaptation of Tekken. The movie itself reimagines the events of Tekken 3 in such a shitty way. They have Kazuya and Heihachi working together, they make Law look like a complete douchebag, they don't have Anna and Nina being assassins who have a rivalry, but are sharing a battle with Kazuya for some reason. Even worse is they make Jin this awkward teenager who has a thing with Christie, when in reality, Christie never interacts with any of the Mishima family. And the worst part of it all is never having Kazuya fight Jin hand to hand. I mean, you're just gonna have Ian Anthony Dale just fight fucking Jonathan Fu with axes, when clearly Kazuya is supposed to be a fucking hand-to-hand fighter, and not a weapon fighter? This is just a few things that are a major issue of the entire movie, but we'd be here all day if I try to go over everything. In conclusion, it respects the source material visually at times, but tries to ground itself in reality a little too much, which would mean a man with cybernetic enhancement is possible, but you can't have a wrestler in a jaguar mask, or a purple fighting devil, or a genetically enhanced kung fu fighting panda. If I was to adapt a live-action Tekken movie, I would have the original roster of the first Tekken game in their respectively designed outfits with their backstories intact and show off their iconic moves, because throughout this entire movie we have not seen a single iconic move. Well, we did see cheap imitations, I guess. And with my live-action Tekken movie, I would also have the entire movie's driving plot and focus on the rivalry between Kazuya and Heihachi. And unlike how they did in this movie, I would also remember to plant seeds for the devil gene, because this Tekken movie never ever touches upon it, because Christopher Nolan realism. And with each fighter Kazuya defeats in the tournament, they can try to deter him from seeking revenge and being the bigger man, only for Kazuya to finally defeat Heihachi and throw him off a cliff in the end, ultimately turning him into a villain. And the possible sequels can explore more of the Mishima and Kazuma family drama, while introducing more iconic characters and their movesets. I didn't expect to be this pissed off at how they treated the live-action Tekken movie, and the more I try to find a teeny tiny good aspect about the movie, just to play devil's advocate and be fair, I just find more flaws with it. Overall, I rate this movie 1 genetically modified Velociraptor boxer out of 10. Don't watch it if you're a fan, and don't watch it if you want a good movie to watch. Watch the 95 Mortal Kombat movie instead. If you made it this far into the video, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you consider subscribing or donating to my Patreon, or following me on my social links, and I hope you enjoyed the video.